Assalamu alaikum everyone. Welcome to our channel. The date is the 18th of July 2026. We have a video for you in relation to a recent disagreement between Adnan Rashid, Daniel Hakikatu, and a video filmed between Adnan Rashid and Muhammad Hijab. So that's the background on the video is basically this. Daniel Hakikatu is a very prominent da'i in America who is of Iranian ethnicity, who became Salafi and more recently has distanced himself from Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab and has led the charge against the evils of the Najdi Dawah. Adnan Rashid is another prominent da'i. He's very active in IERA as head of global programs. He came to prominence in debates in speakers' corners against Qadianis and Shia, and he studied history from Birkbeck and a postgrad from SOAS. Daniel has publicly critiqued and ridiculed Adnan for his stance against Iran. When the priority is the unity against the Zionist alliance, Adnan has retorted by equating Iran with the Zionists and going as far as equating them with Hjudhaifah as well. Adnan has been vocal against Iran's backing of proxies in Iraq and Syria, but completely vague about the GCC-backed atrocities against Sudan and Yemen and their collusion with Israel. He has also takfeered Twelvers, specifically Twelvers of the Shia. This provides some background as to the kind of contention between the two camps. Brother Muhammad Hijab, who needs little introduction, has attempted to reconcile both parties. He recorded a video to discuss Adnan's points of view. It's a very long video. It's 5.5 hours. We've decided to play sections of it for of relevance, just to spare you having to sit through 5 hours. Now, Muhammad Hijab, as I mentioned, doesn't need much of an introduction, but he's for those who may not be familiar with him, he's an immensely prominent da'i. He became prominent on Speaker's Corner, is a well-known debater, highly qualified in multiple areas. He's got, I don't know how many PhDs he's got, and he's got an excellent series on Kalam, which you can access on his channel. He's working with the Sapiens Institute, led by Hamza Zortzis, another amazing da'i. And the Sapiens Institute encourages the listeners to support them because they're doing excellent work. So we've decided to avoid the tabloid-like back and forth in this video, the disputes between Daniel and Adnan during the commentary, unless it's needed for context. Whereby key points worthy of discussion are raised, we will play sections in greater completion. We have our resident scholar, Professor Muhammad Al-Masri, to comment. Professor Muhammad Al-Masri is a professor by training and profession. Those of you familiar with this channel or our former channel would recognize that the professor is an Islamic scholar, formerly a physics professor in Abdulaziz ibn Saud University, a former member of Hizb ut-Tahrir,
King Saud. Just mentioned the original speciality with the professor here. It's mathematical physics.
Yeah. Okay, and former member of HT, co-founder of the CDLI in Saudi, a dissident and one of the most prominent critics of the Saudi regime. He has published a large body of works, including a series on Tawheed, which we have studied in full on our channel. You can see the playlist. So we've gone through 4 volumes on his work on Tawheed, a work which demolishes the Wahhabi doctrine from its very roots, using compelling evidences that reach tawatur, ayahs, and completely demolishing. You realize how superficial the Wahhabi doctrine, not just superficial, but how dangerous the doctrine is. I mean, history itself, ironically, Adnan is a historian, and later on you'll notice that he just glosses over the history of the impact and the various atrocities committed by Abdul Wahhab and his followers. Okay, the professor's knowledge of usul, theology, fiqh, politics, and histories, and more poignantly, the history of the degenerate Al Saud regime, puts him in a position, ideally, to comment on this subject. So, I will play sections of the video, starting at point 54 minutes, where Adnan mentions a couple of doctrinal issues, which as a means to undermine, denigrate, or expose the Shia point of view. So 54 minutes in.
He made this argument, making dua to Isa alayhi salam, I am not sure is 100% shirk. That's what.
So the context of this is Daniel Hakikatu had a debate with somebody, and then in reference to making dua, in reference to some of the Shia points of view. Now, Dan isn't a Shia, but he was mounting some sort of other or to excuse them. So Adnan has singled this issue out. So I'll play it again, a bit more context as well.
Okay. He belittles it. We were discussing making dua to Isa alayhi salam. He made this argument, making dua to Isa alayhi salam, I am not sure it's 100% shirk. That's what he said.
Many Sufis make the same sort of arguments.
Okay, let's put the Sufis aside, because Sufis come in different categories and different stages. You know, there are different types of Sufis in the world. There are classical Sufis, and there are recent Sufis, and there are postmodern Sufis. Okay, we have likewise other groups, right? Let's discuss this person. This person, he said, I am not 100% sure if making dua to Isa alayhi salam for healing is shirk.
I don't think his view is that he's intrinsically going to grant it. I think he's probably thinking of some kind of istighatha or some kind of tawassul or something.
That's his problem. I'm saying I gave him categorical evidence from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Ad-du'a huwa al-ibadah, or ad-du'a mukhul ibadah. Okay, this is very clear. Ad-du'a, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala states in the Quran in Surah Jinn, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم وأن المساجد لله فلا تدعوا مع الله أحدا. Okay, Allah, you cannot call upon anyone. The word here is tad'u, okay, which comes from the same root word as dua, right? And the Prophet has said, ad-du'a huwa al-ibadah. So if you make dua to Isa alayhi salam and ask him for healing, okay, this is shirk.
So the thing is, this is where we have to kind of.
I don't make takfeer of. I don't say he's.
You're not making takfeer of him, but I just want to make this point. Is that okay? So you got the asl of hukum, and then you've got tanzil of it, right? So I understand the viewpoint very well. I understand exactly what you mean, and if someone actually believes that Isa alayhi salam is actually going to give you intrinsic, he has the intrinsic or thing, then that person probably is a mushrik actually, but that is not, from what I remember, exactly what he said. So well, I think he did say something like, he's trying to talk about istighatha in the sort of same Sufi way. Now, the fact is this, is that...
Let's pause here. The first speaker who seemed to be Asian, that's Adnan Rashid.
Yes.
Okay. The second one was Muhammad Hijab. Yes. Okay. So the evidence is this Adnan Rashid brought, where he started dua huwa al-ibadah or huwa mukh al-ibadah. Dua is the ibadah, which is translated as worship. This is a wrong translation. It should be enslaving oneself to someone. Ibadah, abada, from slave. That's the original meaning. But let's use worship in a loose sense. And mukh al-ibadah is the brain or the marrow, the bone marrow of ibadah. This is not the only thing which the Messenger of Allah brought, and not the only things the Quran mentioned ibadah in many other places, mentioned dua in many other places. And the ayah he mentioned, أن المساجد لله فلا تدعوا مع الله أحدا. The word dua there is used another meaning than one. Now let us start here. The word dua, yad'u, has several meanings. For that to know the meaning, you have to scan the Quran. Neither he nor Muhammad, not even Ibn Taymiyyah did. For that, I don't go into details. For that, you check our book of Tawheed, where all the possible meaning of dua. One of it meaning giving name and attributing something. One of it calling someone, for example, for them. That's the reason the Wahhabi movement, until very recently, in all their books, recently, maybe the last 30, 40 years, they deviated from that actually from ancient times, they deviated between dua al-ibadah and dua al-talab. Because they face the following problem. What to do with someone who is drowning and call someone on the shore, throw me a rope, help me. They call it talab, you're asking for something. Dua al-ibadah was very confused by them. They don't know what's the meaning of dua al-ibadah. Call on these names. mentioning them in any context, not necessarily calling for something, just mentioning them. Because the mushrikeen hear the messenger of Allah, you have the in the Quran, calling Ya Rahman, Ya Rahim, Ya Allah. They say, oh, Muhammad is referring to date, it's calling two names. So they have the two names as two different personalities or two different agents. So Allah clarified they are two names of the same entity. Mention Allah as the name of Allah or Ar-Rahman or the other divine name. أيما تدعو, whatever name you call, whatever name you use, has nothing to do with calling for help or in any context. Calling for help, calling for healing, sick, whatever you're sick, other sick, calling for that. This divine entity is necessarily existing or not existing in any context. You can use Allah or Ar-Rahman or Al-Wahhab and so on. So you see, the word dua have fundamentally different meanings. That's number one. The case of mas'ala of calling for something for yourself, asking for benefiting and so on, that they waver the long time when it is shirk or not. Until Shokwani claimed to have solved the problem for them. Ibn Wahab was not able to solve it. But he solved it for them, and his solution is also faulty, as discussed in the book of Tawheed. I can mention casual if necessary, but leave that. So that comes from, first, the word dua has not been certain what the meaning in the time of Quran revelation. Now, what to do with hadith of Messenger of Allah, dua huwa al-ibadah or da'u mukh al-ibadah? He definitely means calling Allah for something, submitting, enslaving yourself, asking for something, showing poverty, no doubt. And this form, dua huwa al-ibadah, meaning dua is so important in expressing your slavery to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that you express that you're poor, you need Him for healing, for etc., everything. That's in the hadith. That's the allegorical form, exaggeration. That don't worry about forms of rituals, standing and say. The core really, who shows your enslavement to Allah, is asking, begging for something. Show you are a slave, you're in need of Him. You show your poverty, and hence He is absolute power and absolute nature of being necessarily existing. That's the meaning in the hadith. It is allegorical. It must be understood in the context of all the ayahs of Quran and the fundamental reasons we have mentioned. Linguistically, there are two categories. Sometimes it's calling someone for help, masala, and sometimes something else, mentioning him, etc. So that's the first mistake he does. Clearly fundamental mistake. Obviously, Muhammad Hijab did not go through these things, because he started also from a Wahhabi direction. The same modern haqiqatu. That's the reason they were not able to go to the fundamental point. The fundamental point of Adnan Rashid, he may be from Ahl Hadith background or from Wahhabi background from India or Pakistan, is they followed almost blindly what Ibn Taymiyyah and Ibn Wahhab said, which is the shallow definition. Neither Ibn Taymiyyah nor Ibn Wahhab did scan the Quran properly and try to classify various meaning of dua. And then they got stuck in never-ending circle. So to settle this problem properly, go to the Quran and see what that does mean. Now let me go to the specific problem of dua to Isa. What means dua first? Mentioning him as a divine being, we don't mean that. That's a shirk. Mentioning him as a prophet, no problem. So what means dua Isa? Most likely they mean asking Isa for healing. Jesus help me. Jesus do this. Jesus cure my son. Jesus forgive my son. Oh, they thought that most of them think that He already forgave the sin, so they take liberty on things. But we don't go to the details of forgiveness of sin. So they're addressing Him as a being who able to give health. Even that is not yet the level of shirk. What is the belief in the addressed one? Which Jesus they are calling? Which mental image and belief they have about Jesus? Who is doing that? Who is a belief that He does that by Him being a divine Son of God, having some kind of divine essence, being called all the rest maybe of school, need further clarification, but let us leave it with that. This is definitely shirk, because you're asking something which can be asked only for either from divine essence in some schools reason like Son of God or things like that, or from someone who equal power to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or can compete to Allah ta'ala in power. In the case of Jesus, they come of this dilemma that they say He is the Son of God and His will and His direction is completely coincident with His Father. They never wish anything else, because the moment they have different wills and different direction, there will be conflict. So who will be overriding? One overriding is the divine, real divine. Other one is below. Finish. Done. They know that. The Christians know that. The only discussion between so-called the one who equates God ages to actually the initial belief maybe in second century and early third century that he is the word with which God created the world. He is the intermediate creator. But the question was, this intermediate creator, is he created himself? Is there that time gap between his beginning and the beginning of time when God first started the first action? So he's the first action, he's the first action, he's the word, and the word creates everything else. So the word is a tool of the divine, but he is not divine. That's, for example, Justin Mather says that clearly. There's time gap in between. So he's not divine. If you call on him, you call him as the word of God who executes in behalf of God. Is that shirk? It doesn't seem to be shirk. The shirk started with the Nicean creed that he is God from God, spirit from spirit, etc. But this is the darkness of it concerning his specifically. But other entities, if you call on them, believing that they're intrinsically capable, you have to expand that. For example, you call on the Jinn, for example, or you slaughter for them. If you believe that they are dangerous creatures, and you slaughter for them, like you slaughter for a raging lion, or throw a meat to a raging lion until you get time to go up the tree, that is not shirk. But if you slaughter for the Jinn, believing that they can run away from or hide from him, so it would keep them at bay, then you made them divine in this aspect. And this is totally Jinn clearly. I don't even Muhammad Hijab read that. The Jinn describe how Iblis misguided them and say, وَأَنَّ ظَنَنَا أَنْ لَنْ نُعْجِزَ اللَّهَ فِي الْأَرْضِ وَلَنْ نُعْجِزَهُ هَرْبًا. Now we think now, after hearing the Quran, that we cannot escape from Allah, and we thought in time past that we were able to run away from him and hide from him. Now we know that's wrong. The first one is the first belief, which called falsely given to them by Iblis, is making them divine in some aspects. In all other aspects, they can do nothing. They cannot create anything, but they can run away from him. They can do mischief or get away. That makes them blind. They can destroy Allah, at least in some aspects. And this is an exact translation of the ayah of Tamanu. ما اتخذ الله من ولد ما كان معه من إله إذا لذهب كل إله بما خلق ولعلى بعضهم على بعض. Allah has no son. This is the first part. So there is nothing called from a divine essence. There is no divine essence. There is only one divine being. But Allah has no son. It is a simple way to express no son, but it's more deep in the philosophical and deeper in the philosophical discussion. That's number one. Then the second aspect of divinity, or the fundamental aspect, is that ما كان معهم من إله. What is this ilah? You have to define it. The Quran gives you the definition. It is someone who can create and take his creation away from the other one, can separate his kingdom in such a way that the other one cannot overcome him. But it's not impossible, so على بعضهم على بعض. They will be in ranks, but also not possible, as we see in the universe. The top one is the genuine ilah, and the others are just presupposed imaginary ilah. So that's the original definition of ilah, the one who can create independently by his free will. Obviously, by intrinsic power. So you see, the matter is a little bit deeper. In the time of Sahabah and Tabi'in, they were on the fitrah. The feeling was clear. They knew what they have. They know it was a shirk, and they know it by, let's say, by common sense. They didn't go in the philosophical discussion. And during Islamic history, there was no need for discussion because shirk was essentially exterminated from the Islamic society generally. And this even admitted by Ibn Abdul Wahhab, let's say the first 600 years, not right. Why he mentioned 600? Because Ibn Taymiyyah was at the end of 600. So before Ibn Taymiyyah, there's no shirk. After Ibn Taymiyyah, you have shirk. Everything is there. And he attributes himself and his family to be mushrik before until he wake up. Read his books if you want. So here the problem comes that people are the fitrah. They're intermixing with mushrikeen in Arabia and in the place that Islamic control until the 6th century is rare. These are secluded in their communities. There is no interaction. It's not like in India where Muslims are a minority and they interact and see the idols. They have concept about idols which the other Muslims do not have at all. about the various deities, the interaction, and this is a common story. You go to a coffee shop, you are discussing that. You go in the early time of Islam, even time of Umayyad deviations, and then Abbasi until Baghdad and the Mongols. These roughly 600 years, you can't see any mushrik or any idols anywhere. So to know what idols means, what God means, you have to go to India at that time. But nobody was interested. Why go to India, for God's sake, except to do research? That's it. So to summarize, this discussion is empty until Muhammad Hijab and Baradan al-Haqiqa and this Adnan Rashid, all of them go back and read books to read and start really thinking about it and write a consistent, proper refutation. Because after 600, according to Muhammad bin Wahab, when he went to declare wholesale takfeer with Shia and so on, after that, Shirk emerged. So, okay, so what was in the first 600? It was a common sense, simple expression of Tawheed. Now, since Shirk has emerged of various types, according to Muhammad bin Wahab, some of it is true, some is not true, we have to do more thorough, we have to do it more in a rational discourse, a more elaborated discourse. The Quran is having us all well established, but coded in a language, the Quran is revealed to everyone, not to the philosophes, not the high scholars of the past or future, not to the Platon Athenian Academy, no, revealed even for the Bedouins, the elephant one who is in the back of his camel and grazing camels. He must understand some of it. And he understood what is enough to take him out of shirk to wisdom. He understood it automatically. Because he sees the shirk and see what Muhammad called it for. Right away. It doesn't need to go into philosophical discussion. And the same with the generation after that, because they have no interaction with Shirk. What they're saying, no, this will not correct because this point become more sophisticated as life and civilization become more complex and progresses. So this is a fault there. Now let us see, for example, Taymiyyah said, من جعل بينه وبين الله وسائط يدعوهم وتوسل إليهم ويطلب منهم and ask ويطلب منهم. We put intermediary between him and Allah and ask them for the following. He mentioned various things and to clear the heart, to forgive sins. These things obviously can be asked from usually asked from Allah, and they can be called from a divine being. He did not ask me, throw me a rope to save me from drowning. Ask the doctor, please heal me, doctor. You may common man use the wrong word, ishfini, heal me. Actually, the man means treat me. So he gets shifa. Because he is not going to the depth of that. The genuine shifa is coming originally from Allah. But the doctor is the intermediate. If someone believes that he has shifa by his intrinsic power, he's absolutely covered, but nobody entered that. So what the examples every time he is giving are really genuinely which should be considered except as a divine being. He doesn't mention get me out of the well, I fell in the well, throw me a drop. He then ask him for healing the heart from its diseases. Maybe this is only divine action possible. تفريج الكربة, we are surrounded with troubles, give me relief. That can be only by divine action in this form. Then he is mushrik. And also he mentions specifically there al-malaika wal-nabiyyin, mention of Isa and so on. So he mentions certain types of requests, not every request whatsoever. And this made the things for Ibn Abu Wahab completely confused. They weren't even, if you request, what is the difference between dua al-talab and dua al-ibadah? Which dua makes you mushrik and take you up to the fold of Islam. Until Shokwani allegedly solved the problem for them. Everything goes back to the Aqidah. Let me give an example of the solution of Shokwani. Seems at first sight compelling. See, if you ask from someone things which only Allah can do, then this is dua, that's a shirk. Now the question, it looks innocent, if you look at it, oh yeah, that's clear. But what do you mean things which only Allah can do? Is it according to your belief or according to his belief? That's the first question. If according to his belief, it's not only Allah can do it, but someone created by Allah is giving the power to do it, for example. Then you have to say, what is the evidence that Allah gave this power? And then prove to him that he's wrong or right. That is a matter of mistaken understanding of Allah's power. no problem. If you show him an evidence which he admits to you, agree with you, this is only within divine power, and he insists, then he making the entity addressed to the call a divine entity, and he's a mushrik, but he himself. But asking for some things which Allah, only Allah can do, requires definition. What Allah can do has the definition of Allah in the third person's mind, and the divine being. Maybe it is according to your belief. Now, according things themselves need a deep scanning of the Quran and what only Allah can do. Yeah. For example, if you establish the symmetry, we know that Allah is the one who brings the rain. And until recently, there is no way to ask anyone to help with rain or something except Allah. But now we have cloud seeding. What happens if you tell, for example, the plane which goes and seed the clouds, go ahead, there are clouds, there may be hope that there will rain, go up and get us some rain. Do you mean that you believe the plane and the pilot is a divine being? No. It's a tool. According to the system of the universe, but they have no cloud seeding. We can do it. No, that's not Ibadah. But before that, said, my uncle, you have a special standing in Allah Ta'ala. Bring down, you bring us the Orient. Usually will not say that. Usually nobody, Muslim brother will say that. You have a special standing in Allah Ta'ala. Pray to Allah to bring it. That's the usual formulation people use. It's even that what only Allah can do is not explain to us what is the word they usually use. The word they usually use is that the adversary is asked to intervene by Allah Ta'ala or pray to Allah Ta'ala in our behalf. And this is no problem with that. One example, even forgiveness of the sin, when Allah Ta'ala rebukes some people, the munafiqeen, ولو أنهم ظلموا أنفسهم استغفروا الله وأتوا النبي فاستغفرهم الله. If they will have committed sin, they recognize that and ask Allah for forgiveness and came to the messenger to ask Allah for them. They ask, please make supplication for you. You have a special sign of Allah Ta'ala. You pray for us for forgiveness. I said they would have found Allah Rahim. Allah has no problem. Obviously, the Quran from Allah. But I think that all these 3 years, believing is from Allah. I'm making this assumption. I'm not going to philosophical discussion and proving the Prophet and so on. That's what established all 3 of us, and I am a fault with them. Allah is telling them, if you have a continuous, admitted your mistake and made dua, but also make it more effective by coming to the messenger, asking him to make dua for you. No problem. Even it's commendable when the messenger was alive. It seems to be, Ibn Qayim, for example, mentioned the story of the Bedouins. Obviously, this is not an evidence, but it shows that Ibn Qayim understood this issue better than most Sahabah. A Bedouin came to the grave and said, Messenger of Allah committed sins which only Allah knows, and they read in the Quran, he read that ayah, that said, so I came to you, asking you to ask forgiveness for me from Allah. You just asking in my behalf to add more to my own asking. My asking is okay. I'm only asked, but I think my asking is weak. Your asking will be more effective because you rank in Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. He mentioned the story, but he mentioned the completion of the story, and he went and he mentioned some poetry which is famous. The one who through him Allah made the countryside green and things like that. Nice praise say Allah. None of it is shirk like Wahhabi. If you give that to Wahhabi, you would not mention that Qayim praised that story, he will regard it as shirk. And then if you want someone or a later story alleged from Qayim, told him, so a dream from him, say, man, the Messenger came in a dream and told me, tell the Arabi, the Bedouin man, that he has been forgiven. Now, you can believe it or leave it, but Ibn Qayyim mentioned that. My point, Ibn Qayyim, who is regarding a major authority after Ibn Taymiyyah by the Wahhabi, said, mentioned the story, and he thinks this is a great evidence of the rank of Allah by Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, and great evidence of Prophet. I wouldn't agree with him. This maybe is a hadith and nafs, but I'm not going to warn dreams and the evidence value. For me, it's no value. But that Ibn Qayyim mentioned it and have no objection, that's what I mentioned. And he's regarded as a great major authority of just read the story, you'll find no Wahhabi literature at all. They run away from it. But it's clearly established in Qayim literature. So what is the formulation you are using? It becomes more confusing if someone is slaughtering for someone. What is slaughtering for someone mean? When Abdul says slaughtering, ذبح للقباب, slaughtering for the domes above the graves, for the graves. What does it mean slaughtering for the graves? Which words are used there? What word is used? Maybe it is slaughtering for the one who is dead, in the sense that it will take the thawab for that. Like many people in Najd, self-Najd, when they do an udhiyah or go slaughtering for Hajj and so on, they say this is for me and this for my father. Meaning it's for believing. So no, the thawab, the reward, is going to the father, asking Allah that the reward goes to the father. This is from my father. They say that. What's the meaning? You have to explain what's the meaning. What am I thinking about? What's the meaning of Ibn Abdul Wahhab saying من أنواع الشرك ثالث شرك الذبح للقباب. Slaughtering doesn't even graves qibab, because those graves who are honored, they have a dome above it. A dome or qubba, qibab or qubba. This structure is like a half ball. What's the English? It's called dome. Yeah,
Dome. Yeah.
Dome above the grave. ذبح القباب. What do you mean ذبح القباب? What does it mean? You see some slaughtering, what does it mean? Could be أضحية. We don't know what's it. We have to ask what is. مجرد just ذبح القباب is automatically shirk. Does not make any sense. This man is blabbering nonsense. My advice, if we go that in the book of Tawheed, it takes several hundred pages to develop from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So all that is just waving out. And mentioning these two hadith and one ayah does not bring us forward. Because there are many ayahs which explain the meaning of dua. And many ayahs explain the meaning of request, dua, requesting something. And others just mentioning something. لكن الآية ادعوا الله أو ادعوا الرحمن أيما تدعوا. It doesn't call on, mentioning even. My God is Allah or my God is Ar-Rahman. You mentioned either one is the same one. أيما تدعوا, these are beautiful name of Allah. That's it. Calling it one entity which has various names according to various attributes. That's all that's it. So better, I think to get there anywhere. I'm not claiming that Adnan Rashid is aware about literature. So the book of Tawheed, even its first primitive form, was 20 years ago. But in the first advance and development, since 2015-16, I don't blame him for maybe he did not know about it, he did not bother about it. But if he has news and did not read it, there is a real problem. Because if he has written anything significant, or I would have read it, or said any video with anything significant, I would. Because most videos of these guys I hear, I don't find anything significant. It's the same thing, blabbering. If they think anything new of someone, then I will mention it. I will not hide it. For example, someone coming recently from Saudi Arabia, he studied there. He's originally from Sham. He told me that now because I mentioned what they define Shirk and Tawheed and Ibadah in Saudi Arabia, in our textbooks when we have small mind in high school and so on, and various definition of Ibadah, they use the definition of Ibn Taymiyyah. Ibadah is the extreme in love and extreme in submission or lowering yourself, which is a wrong definition. This may be the correct definition of Ibadah of Allah only, but not for Ibn Abdaliyati. But that's for the definition of Ibadah, which is wrong, as we refute in our book. And they say now define it, again making it wrong with the other direction. Al-Ibadah here ta'a, obedience. No, it's obedience for someone who you believe that he has the right of obedience or right being submitted to by his intrinsic capabilities again. So they expanded it too much. Now if you obey your parents, they'll say, oh, we have evidence for that from Allah. To take it out. The definition should be intrinsically consistent without being permitted from Allah or not. So but they changed the definition. I'm acknowledging that, inshallah, the next edition of the Tawheed. Even the new definition is a bit too wide, allowing a lot of nonsense to come in, for example. But I will acknowledge it. I don't remember. I read some videos about history. It was blatantly so wrong that this man has nothing to offer. Nothing critical. He did not read what the Orientalists did. He did not read what the Shia did. He did not read what some Muslim scholar did before that, even classical scholars about history and historical development. He did not read it. Clearly, he did not read it. So that's nothing. Otherwise, I would have been following him. I followed Muhammad Hijab. I'm admiring. I criticized some words which he took over from Wahhabi and advised from some person. Go, please don't translate La ilaha illallah. There is no deity worth of worship. This does not make any sense. There is no deity except Allah. Because by definition, deity is the one who is worthy of submission and absolute obedience, and vice versa. Otherwise, it's not a deity. So these things must be now precise because there's dispute around them and misunderstanding around them. And I think we do the good step towards making high precision. I'm not claiming we reached the peak. Maybe the peak is never reached for human, but at least a part which make your mind tuned in the right direction, not in the opposite direction. So this is concerning that. If the ground level you are in error, it's very difficult to discuss the top levels. But let's go ahead and see what's there. So Daniel Haqiqa Jew, he entered Islam essentially. I think he was before that not Muslim. Even
he was Shia, 12 Shia before.
But he was committed to, or was just a common man?
Common man. I mean, he's
because I think he's born in America.
Born in America, his family Shia. He was Shia himself.
Mostly nominal. Maybe they're just Shia by name. As we know, many
I think his grandfather was a Shia Imam or something.
Yeah. And the father of not practicing, and he became maybe semi-atheist.
I don't know.
Agnostic. We don't know. So he started from there, and then because the environment, the more active in North America is essentially some more like Sunni Wahhabi direction. Because according to his age, I see videos of him. I saw various videos, and he's quite nice, definitely. But still, he's not as precise as should be. You see in these videos, age-wise, he must have grown up in the time where Saudi Arabia was spending tens of millions, hundreds of millions in America to turn everyone into a Madkhali, not only Wahhabi. Like, for example, the Warith Deen, who separated himself from Black Nation of Islam and separated from Farah Khan. Warith Deen, yes, he corrected his Aqidah considerably from Farah Khan, but he went to the level of crawling in a cave and having no effect in society because he became Madkhali. Someone argued in that case in America, this is a small minority, he wanted to develop his community, but still, he should say fundamental issues, he should have a point of view. He has not. But anyway, that's all by influence of Saudis and hundreds of millions of Saudi money, even billions, yeah, and others. So he's around that time. So this is the direction which puts himself on the table. So no wonder that he started with that, but he slowly recognized there's something fishy there, which shows he's open-minded. He's the thinker. Adnan Rashid most likely started from some Ahlul Hadith or something like that, or some Hanafi, Jamud Hanafi, who are frozen in the old fiqh of 7 centuries ago, and did not ever get out of it. The way he expressed things, mention one hadith here, one ayah here, we have hundreds of ayahs, and we have various hadith to explain various things. But he did not have a comprehensive study there, because all that his diet is Abdul Wahhab and maybe Ibn Taymiyyah books. That's all his diet. If that's all your diet, then don't blame yourself if you go astray.
Also, when you see later on in this video, he's denying categorically unequivocal events, and it's all due to sectarian bias.
Yeah, that will come, because if your vision of the reality is so distorted and so minimalistic, you will not see the reality at all.
I mean, ironically, it's the same thing we see on the Shia side when they started to deny atrocities by Bashar. The problem is because people don't make, they make their affiliation based off of sect rather than what the actual texts say.
Yeah.
So for example, if you say, no, I'm only endorsing what Kitab and Sunnah says, and that's my barometer. So if my own father, my own brother violates those principles, then I will condemn it. That's the balance.
Yeah.
Also,
But
Sheikh,
practically, that's the theory, but nobody applied it really in full. Some applied for 30%, some 50%. These are with sectarian. The moment you really overcome the sectarian balance and start thoroughly looking from this side, from this side, you get out to become a little bit more balanced. But to get really almost, nobody will be absolutely imbalanced except infallible prophets. But to get really, you could say this is unbiased, you have to go deeper than that. And the question you will say, oh, the Sahabah and Tabi'in. Sahabah have disputes about issues deeper than that, by the way. But because people do not study history, that's it. And the level of understanding is not the same. And people who discuss the issue about fitna, where some people did not fight with Ali, some people against Ali, and so on, they never went back to see if there's a prophetic guidance there. Yeah, there is. From someone who is absolutely above any doubt, Hjudhaifah ibn al-Yaman. When he asked the Messenger of Allah, the hadith is famous and comes through many channels and many copies and various in Bukhari and Muslim. But Iwan ibn Hibban, which has a better isnad than Bukhari, says clearly, I was fearful that Fitan will catch me. Evil will come after the good. So we were in evil in Jahiliyyah, there's no doubt. There's a general agreement about that. And yes, the Messenger of Allah, we were in evil, and this goodness we are is because Allah brought you as a messenger to us. Is there an evil after that? What a messenger answered. In the Hadith of Bukhari, this part is not there, unfortunately. Is it done by Bukhari by mistake or whatever? We don't know. Or he's one of his sheikhs abridged. We are not going to discuss that. People intention. Leave it for Yawm al-Qiyamah. But the fact it is that it's not which is as good or better than his, it says the first answer was not yes, and it will be like this. And it said, يا حذيفة تعلم كتاب الله وعد ما فيه. Hudhaifah, learn the book of Allah and apply, act accordingly. Then he asked again and he answered 3 times. Then he mentioned, yes, there will be shar. And in one narration say, Hudhaifah asked, what is the protection from the shar? Say the sword. And many people say he means the ridda after him and Abu Bakr using the force to end this fitna. That's interpretation, but most likely it is true. Then he said, after that shar, is there khair? He said, there will be khair. Again. And then he asked.
There's many scholars in Islamic history.
He made.
Yeah, wait a minute. There will be khair. Okay, there will be khair. And then will be shar after that. Yes, because the dunya will never be khair continuously. It will be up and down. That's the nature of dunya. This dunya is a place of testing. It's not a place of paradise. Not yet. Let's see how to, and then he repeat. So there is a protection of fitna. But to get there, you have to hadith of fitna, the main hadith of fitna Hjudhaifah, the master hadith of Hjudhaifah, not rely on Bukhari only. Who said that hadith of Bukhari is better than one in Ibn Hibban? You have to study the isnad and see the chain, which chain is superior, which scholars in the chain are much known for better memory. And in this study, you focus to get the best possible wording which have the same level of authenticity as much as possible. Some people will have the desire to say, why did Bukhari choose this? Maybe he didn't. Maybe this is only he got through his sheikh. He is unguilty. They remove the issue of guilt and non-guilt unless you are forced to. Leave that to Allah Yawm al-Qiyamah. What is there by Allah's protection of the dhikr on the table, put it so you come close to that what has been revealed in the case of hadith. And in the Quran, the text is protected letter by letter. So this is settled. Both are protected, by the way. But the protection of Sunnah, as we discussed in our book, also Tawheed, chapter 3, is different than the protection of Quran. As we see by necessity of reason, as we see with the books in our hand and the Sunnah. That's not done, unfortunately, because a few people, this would have given massive guidance. Would have given us massive guidance. So let's continue with the video.
Right. So I'll continue with the video now. So you continue a little bit on the issue of Isa alayhi salam and his nature and the nature of asking, and then we'll go to another section where he discusses the 12ers.
There's many scholars in Islamic history have held this.
He made a specific statement. I don't want to drag it too long, but he made a specific statement that I was addressing. He said, if you make dua to Isa alayhi salam for healing, considering him a prophet, not Allah, like Christians,
Have you got the
He
exact
said,
quotation?
I have the clips. They're online. They went out. Hundreds of thousands of people watched them, and I confronted him on this. That you made this specific statement, which is highly problematic, to say the least, to put it politely. It is shirk. To me, it is absolutely categorical shirk, according to my understanding. Is he a mushrik?
Not according to your understanding, according to the evidences. If you believe that he's a prophet and you're asking, then we may be mistaken, thinking that he will hear the asking first. But I'll condition for that. Isa is not with us now. We don't know where he is. Secondly, we don't know if he is capable to hear that by Allah enabling to him. Definitely, as a prophet, maybe Allah enabled him to do that. Maybe not. We don't know. In the case of Messenger of Allah, we have certain things showing that certain things reach him. At least salam on him. It reached to him and he responded to it, as according to his hadith. Okay. So we have some evidence in direction. For Isa, we don't know. For Musa, we don't know. So you address the guy, you address him to nowhere. You are wrong. Wrong is different than shirk. Shirk is wrong, but there are some wrongs or not shirk. It's just a mistake. Not knowing the reality as it is. Just you tell him, yes, he's a prophet, great prophet of Allah, subhanahu wa ta'ala. But you are assuming that your address to him is reaching him, etc., etc. If you were alive in his time and you went to him and he's in front of you, say, please heal my daughter. And that's what in the New Testament there are allegedly stories like that. And also when Al-Azhar died, he came too late, and the sister of Al-Azhar rebuked him that you came too late, now he's dead, what can we do? She did not ask him to revive him because it was out of her world that is possible. And then he went to the grave and asked Allah directly, show everyone that I'm your messenger by reviving this man. So if someone after that, hearing the story and see it and have evidence for that has happened, meet with Isa, say, please, teacher or rabbi or whatever, the way they were addressing him, or master or something like that, revive my son. He's addressing him directly. What does he mean? Make the same thing that I did with Al-Azhar. So it is not highly problematic. It's problematic only for Adnan Rashid because his brain is twisted in the wrong direction. That's it. It isn't even the meaning of dua and how Isa will be addressed. All what he tells someone, you are mistaken, my dear friend. What you are talking in empty air. It will not reach Isa. What's the evidence that will reach Isa? It may is not. If that's enough for you, fine, go ahead. I advise you to address that directly to Allah. If Isa hear it, and he will do it, but how do you know he will do it? And we know that he's a prophet. He will do it by the human power or by the special favor Allah given him and being supported by evidence and by Holy Spirit, etc., etc., etc. That's all okay. That's only the Quran. But how do we know that it will reach him in the first place? If he's in front of us, we know physical reality, it will hear me. But he's gone long ago. Until he comes back, if it's really established. I think it's really established that he will come back. Then we kneel down and we meet him in Bayt al-Maqdis. Come here, heal my son. No problem. So that's not highly problematic. Your brain, Mr. Adnan Rashid, is the way you think and you understand Quran is highly problematic. Sincere advice from a brother. Sincere advice. Go and read our book of Tawheed. Accumulated information over all history and getting all ayahs in the same subject and analyzing them, putting them together snugly. And then whatever sunnah is there, adding to that. And then we have then extract the core of that. There will be small issues here and there which may be matter of discussion, but the issue of mistake and non-mistake, ijtihad and non-ijtihad is not an issue of shirk and non-shirk, of Islam and Kufr. That must be, we must gain certitude in these issues. Not to go according to my understanding. No, we want something which with certitude that everyone must understand that if explained properly. And still, if explained properly, someone become arrogant and review because of arrogance. That is because of juhud and arrogance internally. Like the people of Pharaoh, after the various miracles happened, Allah said, فَجَحَدُوا بِهَا. Publicly say, no, this is all magic. وَاسْتَيْقَنَتْهَا أَنفُسُهُمْ. In their bottom of heart, they were forced to say, that cannot be from this world. This is supernatural. But they say, if we follow this man, we are following two men who belong to a slave nation. No way. Arrogance. Juhud. That's something else. We discuss something else. But we want to reach something that you make a istiqan in your heart. Still, as a free agent, you may decide, no, I'm not going to accept it. I'm going to rebel against Allah. Yeah, that's right. The hellfire is waiting for you. Now we can talk business then. So what Adnan Rashid said, by your understanding, you understand whatever you want. Al-Mas'ali understand whatever he wants. What the evidence which a community of reasonable human being will agree this is very compelling. We cannot escape from it. You have nothing. And what you refer to is one ayah and two hadith. And we build all the religion on these three. Yeah, they're true, but they don't cover all the aspects of a complex issue like worship or enslaving ourselves to Allah. And all the issues of what is meaning of call. Ad'u. Ad'u is actually call. So you don't need to, you can skip that part about Isa. I don't think there's more to be added. So he will go back to his three examples.
Yeah. I mean, the next bit, so it's a few seconds on, in fact, 30 seconds on, he's going to be talking about the 12ers. So I'll continue praying, inshallah.
Outside of Islam, I leave that to the ulama. It's up to them.
There is a tweet in which you say that Daniel Haqiqatu is a 12er Rafidi or something to this effect. You believe in 12er?
I absolutely said it. I have reasons to believe that, and I can put my reasons to you if you want.
So what do you think of the reason? What are the reasons? We'd like to hear them.
I mean, I don't want to dwell on the issue of his accusation of 12, because that's irrelevant, but he does start to go into the issue of 12ers being disbelievers. So that's the
say he believes in 12 and 12. What's the relevance of that? He may be hidden Buddhist. He may be Chinese Communist Party.
Yeah, I mean,
what is the statement he regarded as offensive?
Yeah, we'll go into all of
That's
that.
Again, classifying people according to family.
I mean, so for example, to his credit, he doesn't single out necessarily Daniel as being a kafir or anything, but the point is, this is the opening point for his next critique on the 12ers as being kuffar. And so this is where the relevance is.
Go to that 12 verse, yeah. What
reasons are we can go through the reasons one by one. If you so let's stick to this point. Why did I call him that? Right. So first of all, I have studied the 12er movement in depth with a lot of attention. Okay. There is a book.
So basically, he's studied the 12ers. I hope he's put more attention to it than he has history, because he believes in Nur Bakhti and things like that. But anyway, I'll carry on.
Book authored by Shah Abdulaziz Ad-Dahlawi bin Waliullah Ad-Dahlawi, right? And in this book,
so that's Shah Abdulaziz Ad-Dahlawi.
Yeah, that's famous. Shah Waliullah Ad-Dahlawi. Yeah, carry on. Yeah, no problem.
Put 106 methods how the Shia, the Rafida, the 12ers lure gullible Sunnis into their religion. How they lure them into their religion. How they actually deceive them. 106 methods. He put an entire chapter in this book. It's an encyclopedia of information. It's called Tuhfa Ithna Ashariya. I advise everyone.
What's the name of the author?
Let's make a comment on this. Tuhfa Ithna Ashariya. He said and advised everyone to read it. Shah Waliullah Dahlawi, either he said he took that from Quran and Sunnah or from his observation. Does he have evidence there from Quran and Sunnah, irrefutable ones like we discussed with dua and so on, or from his observation? Observation, like a human being, will be limited to a certain section. Ithna Ashariya may be in his place in India. That's number one. Secondly, even with the evidence of Quran and Sunnah, if we don't read them and scrutinize them, all of them, we will end ultimately in something which is not what came from above 7 heavens. It may be intermixed with something extremely dangerous, maybe one statement which messes everything up. So you read the book as a scholarly work with critical eye. Otherwise, don't go there. That's number one. Now let's continue. So just because they say Shah Waliullah Dahlawi, famous scholars and so on, millions regard him as a wali and holy man, all of that is nonsense. Will not bring us anywhere. We're talking what has come above 7 heaven. And most of it in the fundamental things are well established with certitude. In the book of Allah, is most ayah is muhkam, and those who are mutashabih, plenty of them put together will become muhkam. And then there's some mutashabih which until now maybe nobody decoded, in the future will be decoded. And that's in Surah Ali Imran. That's all what we have to start with and work from there. Right? Carry on.
Abdulaziz Ad-Dahlawi. Shah.
Is that Shah Wali Ad-Dahlawi's son?
Yeah, that's his son. That's right, his son. That's his successor, actually, in hadith, in tafsir, in all the fields. He wasn't like his father, of course. His father was something else.
Yeah.
But he was also a great scholar. He was the greatest scholar alive by far. All scholars respected his fatwa. Abdulaziz al-Dahlawi. He wrote this book, Tuhfa Itna Ashariya, in the 18th century when Shiaism was spreading like wildfire because the Mughal household was compromised. Shia influences had come into the Mughal households, and it was being pushed by the royal family in some cases. So he had to, like his father.
Is that written in Arabic?
It was written in Persian for the Mughals, primarily for the Indians. The elite, the literati. He wrote this book for the literati. He didn't write it for the masses, for the public. They wouldn't even understand the book, right? Sure. So it's an encyclopedia. Wallahi, there hasn't been a book like this in the history of Islam.
And it's not
I find it more powerful, more comprehensive than Minhaj al-Sunnah. No disrespect to Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah rahmahullah's effort. He did an amazing effort in Minhaj al-Sunnah. It's the usloob of Minhaj al-Sunnah is very different. The usloob of Tuhfa is to deal with a lot of practical challenges we face from 12 Shiaism. Okay, so coming back to the issue.
Let's go back to the point. So you said that you declared him as a 12 Shia. So what's the evidence you have for that? Because that's
I believe because look,
the thing is, Adnan, let's just to add to that, just one more thing. It's obviously we know that your position is that you believe that 12 Shias are disbelievers. So it would follow that if you think that he's a 12 Shia, then you would think that he's a disbeliever.
First of all, my position.
Sorry, Sheikh.
It is going in the wrong direction. I think Muhammad Hijab, continue. Tell us key points from Abdulaziz al-Dahlawi, the son of Shah Wali al-Dahlawi.
Sorry, say again.
He should ask for key points from Shah Wali Allah al-Dahlawi. The praise of him and his equal to Ibn Taymiyyah and Minhaj al-Sunnah Nabawiyya Sajah. Minhaj al-Sunnah, we have such blunders, you become really almost ready to vomit. So maybe there is something like that. Give us key points. Did they go there, or the issue is diverted to Adnan al-Haqiqa Joe is he
part of that, but also later on, about another 40 minutes on, he goes on to Ijma, Takfir, or Rafida. So
let's continue with Shah. If there's anything about Shah Wali al-Dahlawi,
not much. I mean, because I wanted to get that statement of him making blanket Takfir of 12 is I thought. So I'll play a little bit more because there's another bit we can skip to. So if he does expand more on his 12ers at this point, worthy of comment. If not, we'll skip ahead until where it talks about certain political stances. Then we can later on.
No. But before the 12, did he give us more about Abdulaziz?
Really. No, not much. He just said about.
So he succeeded, maybe not intentionally, because this is a classical way of dealing with things with these many scholars in Islam, including those of Salafi and Hanbali direction, is to shift the issue to this great scholar wrote this and this and then, and then my people all the Allahu Akbar and start making sujood and ruku'.
In his, I think the context of that was to show that the Shia have certain techniques that they use. So it
doesn't matter. Muhammad Hijab should not be sucked in this. Should continue.
Tell us. I have to say, I'll say this about Muhammad Hijab. Because Muhammad Hijab is being very polite with Adnan because he knows him very well. Also, there's an issue of seniority. So Muhammad Hijab was very, understandably, very polite with Adnan. And if you look throughout the video, the way that Adnan was arguing was quite obnoxious because he would attribute whataboutism to Adnan when he was doing the exact same thing. So it's Muhammad Hijab was being respectful in not bringing him up.
We advise him. This is the place not to be respectful. The place to ask him firmly. Give us key points from. We admit that Abdulaziz.
And later on he does. He's
definitely a great scholar, but he's not fallible. He does not receive revelation. Jibreel seems to come with revelation. We agree on that, both of us. Let's continue. Give us key points so we benefit from what you have read.
Yeah. Also, later on, Hijab does bring him up on a lot of the political issues. So he does. He does it, but obviously, so if there's any leniency, it's out of respect for the good work.
I wouldn't bother about it out of respect or out of fear or of the sword on his head. That's a second issue for Yawm al-Qiyamah. I'm saying he should not have been, as a debater, sucked in the field. He should be alert about how the people deal with it. Go to the fundamental points. Shawwal said that, okay, Where did he derive? Did he receive it from Jibreel? No. Then must be discussed with him how he got to there. That's the way to debate with everyone, with Sunni, with Shi'i, with Sufi, with Christian, with communist.
Also, another thing, also, I'm going to put some context as well. I can tell Adnan has gone in there very well prepared to put a certain, like the Madkhalis usually do, they put a certain premise and then they work through that premise to try and lead somebody to a conclusion of some mass conspiracy going on. Partly there may be a mass conspiracy, but I can see he's doing the same thing here, because what he's trying to do is, because what he later on, because this is why I found this video very beneficial for us to discuss it, because he's building certain theological premises and then building an ideological premise, then a political premise, to then effectively build a bridge towards his end game, which is very similar to what people like Shahid Bolson does. But
perfect.
But that's why there's a lot of, that's why I felt it was important to go through some of these
no problem. I'm advising the debater, Muhammad Hijab, who is no doubt Muhammad Hijab is excellent, no doubt about that. He should be aware about this way to suck someone in the field. Carry on
in a minute. And I'll explain why my position is what it is, right? Coming to this person, some of the brothers, including Fareed, I don't know if I have this permission to say this, right? But I'm going to say it. They are so fair with this guy. They privately messaged me and they said, don't call him that because you don't have any evidence of that. I tell them, I call him that based upon my experience, my assessment, okay? And because I believe the way he defends 12-er Shiaism, the way he defends Khamenei, the way he put out a tweet saying anyone who accuses Khamenei of insulting the Sahabah is a munafiq or an agent of Israel. The way he does these statements and these things, there is that simple principle. If it looks like a duck, if it quacks like a duck, then it is a duck.
I'm going to skip ahead here because he doesn't necessarily dwell much more on the issue of 12 as being kuffar at this point. Now it's going to go into more political matters. So I'll skip ahead to that. For the listener, you have, we'll put the link to the full video. So check it out yourselves, inshallah. I'll try and put timestamps.
I'll come with questions and questioning both sides, including our statement.
Yeah. And later on, he does go into a little bit more, but this is going to be later where he's going to go into the issue of what points he makes takfeer of them. So this is going forward to 1 hour, 4 minutes and 12 seconds.
Going that far is you believe that you believe he's a 12 Shiite, and you believe that 12 Shiites are disbelievers. So then why are you not saying that he's a disbeliever if you believe that?
Okay. First of all, I explained to you earlier, his parents come from that background. Okay. He's Persian, he's Iranian. He's Iranian. Wait, he's Iranian.
Yeah.
No. Let me explain. Okay. He's Iranian. Okay. And he was Shi'i when he grew up. He was Shi'i. Okay. When he grew up. Then he changed as per his own clarification. Then he changed to become an Athari. Then he started to hang around with the Wahhabis. And then he took his Wahhabi Shahada, when he was Aqidah checked by a number of brothers, right? He became a diehard Wahhabi. Then he switched. He claims that after October 7th, he switched, right? Then he switched completely 180 degrees. From being a Wahhabi, having taken his Wahhabi Shahada, he went completely to the other side of the fence. Politically and theologically, I'm claiming this. Let me explain first.
Politically, something.
Politically, because he's defending Iran tooth and nail. Okay. Then theologically, if you watch my 7-hour stream with him, he was advocating or defending the Shia position on Imama. He kept saying, I don't believe in this, but this is what they say. And he was presenting lame arguments about the Shia tafdeel of the Aimma over Al-Anbiya, which is kufr. And I was arguing that to have this position is kufr akbar. Qadi Iyad, for example, he made takfeer of anyone who gives superiority, tafdeel, to any non-Nabi, anyone who is a non-prophet over a prophet, anyone, right? Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah, rahmallah, he wrote, anyone who prefers Ali bin Abi Talib radiallahu an over Muhammad Rasulullah or Ibrahim alayhi salam, his kufr, he's akfar min al-Yahud wa nasara. Akfar min al-Yahud wa nasara. One.
So this is evidence, his evidence that Ibn Taymiyyah said and Qadi Iyad said. Did they build that genuinely with something which really make it defensible based on Quran and so on? I think they have maybe in a complicated, long, rounded way. And the one who said that, no, it's an Ashriya, do they say that? In this way? They say our Aimma have control with it, some of them, etc., all of these things. But did they say clearly that our Aimma are superior and closer to Allah than the Nabi and so on? The one who said that, obviously, and we, after establishing the evidence for the first premises, that nobody can be superior, higher in rank than none who is higher, the highest Siddiq. With the Quran, النبيين والصديقين والشهداء والصالحين. That's the general ranking. Such a general ranking means the category is definitely, the whole category is superior to this one. Now, to conclude that every one of this category is superior to this one is a bit more difficult, but in the case of Nabiyyin, yes, we may say. In the case of Nabiyyin, Siddiqeen, there may be a question over Shuhada. The Siddiqeen who are Shuhada, are they superior to Siddiqeen who are not Shuhada, or what is there? I would say the issue of superiority is a problem, but generally, the general feeling of the Quran is that nobody will be superior to the prophets, as long as they are prophets, and not remove them from prophethood. Like the only example we know is Bal'am ibn Ba'ura in Surah Al-A'raf. But leave this singular case, as long as he's prophet, he's superior to anyone else who is not a prophet. But obviously, Bal'am Ba'ura was even at that time inferior to Musa. But this is ranking between the prophets. Again, Allah is the one who does the ranking. Nobody is allowed to do the ranking. That's a complex issue. But anyway, assume that. Is there one? Is that part of the Aqidah Rasmiya, the official Aqidah of the Shia, which we take from the cross section of their books, or it is some individual guys and scholars, some mentally deranged guys? Question. So he's coming from a obscure area of no great relevance. What else is he saying about Imam, which advocate that they are kafir because they make allegedly their Imams superior to the prophets? I don't know where they say. I don't remember anyone saying that. Besides, that's not correct with Shia. We have many Sufi saying, there's a famous piece of poetry, say, مقام النبوة في برزخ فوق الرسول ودون النبي. So for them, Rasul is less than Nabi. And Nabi is less than Wali. So all Wali, and they regard themselves as Wali, is higher than Nabi, and Nabi is higher than Rasul. Upside down. Did anyone declare takfir? Maybe. It's irrelevant. If you say the Sunni position, these were not Shia, by the way. Other color, maybe Ash'ari, maybe Matridi, maybe Hadith Rashid, maybe Matridi is not Wahhabi, because it seems to be talking about Wahhabi as if he's like Hanafi Matridi of subcontinental style, whatever he is, we don't know. He's simply confused about this issue. This is not a genuine issue of takfir.
I mean, I think
takfir for the guys who say that, not for the madhab. I don't think this is of the madhab.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's more Athari. He's your Deobandi type of Ahlul Hadith type of point of view.
There's a closer to Wahhabi.
Yeah, much closer to Wahhab. Yeah, I mean, he's got a lot of respect for Muhammad al-Wahhab to the extent he whitewashes his history. He denies historical events in his support.
That is not relevant. We're talking about takfir now. This is a dangerous issue. This is a matter of life and death. So this is one point. What else is have a reason for Itna to be kafir? So
that'll be later. It'll be discussed later, inshallah.
Is that really from the Itna Ashri is a uniform, well-established point of view of the majority of scholars, disregarding the common people what they think and some singular scholar what they think.
Also, Sheikh, one question. that point of view, you have those things which are absolute, unequivocal, and those things which are, the Hujjah needs to be established beforehand.
Yeah.
Would this be something qati to the point that if a person in origin believes it by ignorance, whatever it may be, they automatically kuffar, or is it something that they have to be convinced?
If there's a Hujjah yaqiniyya, then nobody will believe otherwise unless he's ignorant or have ta'weel himself, or juhud, kafir by refusing the truth arrogantly or something like that. But the problem with that, from this point of view, you are also sucked in that area. The case is the people expressing that and so on, you cannot call it the madhab of the people to whom he belongs nominally. If you quote the madhab of all the people, the majority say that, then you say the cross section shows that's the madhab, the abstract madhab as abstract. And then if you talk takfeer, if you say this point of view is a kufri statement or a kufri, and this action is a kufri action, that's in abstract. That's in abstract. Who does it in case of action, or who does it by the way their action, which is an act of kufr in themselves, and who believes it or is a kafir as a person needs to exclude all barring condition, and people confuse the two. I
mean, this has also come up as well. So, for example, for him, talking to a Shia...
I give you a nice point, maybe just if you allow me 2 minutes. Abu Hurairah was kind to someone who is, I think, being flogged or something like that, committed a sin, and say, you still have good relation with, you still feel good to him, etc. But Abu Hurairah, although not of the great fuqaha or the Sahabah, said, I hate only his sin. He as a person is my brother. I care for him. And the Quran say, كَرَّهَ إِلَيْكُمُ الْكُفْرَ وَالْفُسُوقَ. By virtue of belief, whatever you know it is a kufr, you know it is a kufr in abstract. Whatever you know it is rebellious, manifest against Allah Ta'ala, whatever you believe it is sin, you hate it as a natural reflection of your belief. Even if your classification is wrong, but the moment you see this is kufr, like for example, permitting usury banking, you must hate it naturally, otherwise you are not a believer. Allah make you to hate him automatically. But is it really permitting usury banking kufr? Yes. Giving a law, instead of punishing when giving and taking usury, witnessing it, you give them permission to establish bank and open doors and lend by usury. You are permitting that. Disregarding that Allah said, they declare them war, meaning they have to be punished as warrior, which is the usual crucifixion, killing, etc., etc. That's the legislation of kufr. Not taking usury. That is a sin. You hate it also, but it's different. Many Madkhali play this game. So your psychological position toward what you believe is kufr, what you believe it is fisq, what is asyan, must be hate by natural. But doesn't mean the one who doing it, you hate automatically. Maybe you regard his brother, but he's mistaken. We don't know his situation. We have to go to him and see what's going on. So this separation is fine, but is fundamentally important. If Abu Hurairah, a simple Arab, yes, he was polished by the Prophet for some years, but how many years he had to be polished? He came to the 7th year, 7th, 8th year. After 8th year, he went to the Ada al-Hadrami, to Bahrain, and never came back. So only 2 years of polishing. The majority of great Sahabah, all the ones, they have 15, 20 years polishing, and still they have some traces of Jahiliyyah. It takes time to polish the people as persons. But a clear creed, the fundamental creed was clear in their mind with no discussion. So we have to distinguish that. Anyway, let's go back to this guy. Distinguish between abstract kufr, this act is act of kufr. How do we know that this act is act of kufr? It needs a considerable scrutiny of Quran and Sunnah to find the abstract ruling. Considerable scrutiny and work. And sometimes it's very clear. Evident. This is a statement of kufr. If someone say evil is not created by Allah, it's created by another entity called Iblis, called a Hariman, called whatever it's called, that's kufr, that's shirk. 2 deities. Carve red car out of there. The one who said that maybe never received the da'wah. He's a Majusi somewhere in South America. We call him mushrik, but don't call him a kafir yet until he rejects the da'wah. in that sense. Kafir in the sense of akhirah, the one going to hellfire. And since dunya, we treat him, he's not a Muslim. So you cannot marry from them, you cannot do, we know these prohibition for marrying for others. It goes by the zahir in dunya. So be careful about this. He is not out of this trap yet. And most Muslims, unfortunately, most madhab are not of this trap. The mix between the person and his creed. And without reaching him, without not reaching him. And the Wahhabi made the biggest blunder in the matter, saying that shirk is not excused by ignorance. The reason for them saying that, because they killed in Najd so many people, right and left and center, which evidently they don't receive the da'wah of Muhammad al-Wahhab, because this is the Islam, the correct Islam, according to Muhammad al-Wahhab. Okay, fine. They didn't receive it. Say, no, because they are mushrikeen. And this is again wrong, but assume they are really mushrikeen and really have idols imported from India. Shiva in Najd was never. But assume that they didn't receive the message. They didn't receive a message. They said, no, there's no excuse for shirk. And they invoke the ayah of Fitrah, when Allah took from the backs of the sons of Adnan, their children, and take with them the covenant, the famous covenant of intrinsic creation. Am I not your Lord? They say, yes. Say, be witness, and I would tell you the Yawm al-Qiyamah about that. They misunderstood it. Ibn Abbas understood it. And they never understood it properly. And built palaces in the air around it. So Adnan Rashid in this category. He never went deeper than that. And 2 ayahs about dua, 1 ayah without 2 hadiths. That's all what he has. And all this of Quran is just most like, I don't want to attack him by such a harsh word, but essentially it's in a bin. It's not there. As if it's not revealed, and revealed for no purpose, just to sing with the Quran while leading Salah in Taraweeh Ramadan. That's not why Quran was revealed. It's not. It's revealed something else. But its totality will give you a structure, an abstract structure, which the absolute certainty reveal the reality and what Allah wants from you, both the reality in the universe and what Allah wants from you with certitude. The essentials, the core, not the fine details, which jihad goes on and on. He never reached this stage. But this carry on why is it an ashir for him kafir? Okay.
That's to be discussed later, but this bit is kind of like going into the issue of we're going to start going into political issues, then we'll cycle back to I'm going through the video in a linear sequence.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so continue.
Okay, this is Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah. So he was defending these positions. So look, again,
which positions was he defending?
I'm not saying everyone start calling him a Rafidi. I said that. I called him that, and I have my reasons to believe that. Now you don't have to agree with that.
If that's how you deal with him, then if people deal with you that way, then you should have no problem.
Okay.
So for example, for example, man, because I've just listened to your line of reasoning, right? No problem, right? Say fine. He's essentially, the argument is he's supporting Iran, and there are aspects of Shiite belief which he's making some sort of apologia for, right? So
more than that.
So then someone can say, well, they're going to make the argument that you've defended whoever it is, and you've heard this, and I want you to also defend yourself on that point.
Okay. Use any of my statements, any of my defense of a specific theological position, link me to that theological position, no problem. If I defend a specific theological position, which I do many times, I defend Islam, I defend the Quran, I defend the Sunnah, okay? I defend the Ahlul Hadith position, I defend the
Athari. Because they say that you're putting a disproportionate sort of attention on the crimes of Iran vis-a-vis what's going on in Israel, and that at this point in time serves the interest of Israel. And so if someone goes, like, I don't know if he said this himself, and if he does, I don't agree with either, or somebody else says it, which is that therefore you're a Zionist. I would say that's a tenuous link, and it's not fair enough to make that sort of entailment. It's not a fair-minded approach.
Anyone who knows my history for the last 20 odd years, they would know. I mean, I've never mentioned this publicly.
Okay, I'm going to skip this bit. So just to save the reader.
That's about how to take position and things.
Yeah, no. The reason I want to go to the next section, which is this. So basically,
let me just say a small note here, interesting note. He defended the position of Ahl Hadith regarding the essentially representing the correct Islam. Maybe the small mistakes and secondary issues. Okay, in their cross section. But some of Ahl Hadith went so extreme. One of them said, I don't remember the name now, I can check maybe with general saying or using artificial intelligence, said, Sunnah حاكمة على Quran. Sunnah is ruling over Quran. This is a statement of Kufr clearly, because no way the Sunnah can be ruling over Islam, or over Hadith, or Quran. Impossible. Neither by the nature of speak, neither nothing. No way. All the necessity of Islam indicates is not Hakima. Neither because it's narrated in a type of protection. This is protected letter by letter. Neither type of abrogation. If we abrogate an ayah, we get so the Sunnah cannot abrogate that. Yes, the Sunnah can explain the Quran, can restrict the general and so on. That's bayan. And the Prophet is ordered to make bayan of what is revealed. Both what's revealed before, which needs bayan, either the Quran or Sunnah. So in the case of Quran, his bayan will be restricted to generalization, restricting the generalization, restricting the specialization of the generalization, restricting the absolute, and also possibly tafsir al-mujmal, something which may have various meaning. He can specify one meaning and put it forward, and all these things. That's only bayan, but he cannot abrogate. It's impossible to abrogate. Only another ayah has to abrogate that. Period, full stop, by text of the Quran. And by all cases, they claim al hadith has abrogated the Quran. It's impossible. It's impossible. So the Sunnah cannot. In eloquence, Sunnah is not superior to the Quran in eloquence and linguistic miracle. So claiming Sunnah is hakima, muhaymina, dominant over the Quran, is a statement of Kufr. Some of Al Hadith, especially the later ones, said that. That's not a position of Al Hadith. One singular has a sick mind or whatever came in his sick mind, he said that. The same, for example, Hanabila generally should not be believing that maslaha abrogate a single hadith. But one guy called Al-Tufi in the 8th century said, in the case a conflict between maslaha and one single hadith, the maslaha takes precedence. His argument is that because the hadith themselves and the whole sharia came for maslaha, infected by the deadly disease of Ibn Taymiyyah, saying statements similar to that. But luckily in this situation, the rest of Hanabala declared him to be a kafir, which is right. Not him, I would say, but this is statement of kufr, because he was confused. He followed Ibn Taymiyyah when he said the sharia has not come except, not has come to complete the masalih and prevent the mafasid, complete the benefits and reduces the harm. Except, that's what kills the whole issue. So following that, if you believe in this rubbish of Ibn Taymiyyah, you will end where Tufi ended. Then you see this single hadith contradicts maslaha. Then maslaha is the origin over sharia. So this maslaha abrogate the hadith. Or prove that the hadith is not properly narrated, it's fabricated. But that's not the way to argue. Obviously, this is beyond honesty, without disrespecting anyone or being arrogant or showing superiority to anybody. This shows Adnan Rashid is not in that level of complex issues.
One question on this specific thing.
And he admits, I'm not scholar, so how can I give you a right to speak about these issues and classify people, persons بعينهم, individual persons? This one roughly, this one is.
No, but the thing is, with his issue of Daniel, it's more a question of applying a point of view. He's not necessarily giving hukum necessarily. But one thing I want to just ask you on this one. So are you saying a Tufi, by his using rejecting the nas, ahad nas, based off of it overriding maslaha, is that a statement of kufr? Because inherently ahad itself is still zanni.
No. It's not. He did not say zanni. He said it's qat'i, but single hadith.
Oh, so he believes that.
He did not dare going to the Quran, but it will apply also to the Quran, meaning it's mansukh then.
I see. So for him,
maslaha is the reason that Allah gave the commands, no other reason.
I see.
Because Ibn Taymiyyah said, الشريعة ما أتت إلا, the Sharia did not come except to bring all benefits and prevent all harm, as much harm as possible. That's it. except. No.
And again, this is
different, it's ideologically correct. Allah is not at liberty to prohibit something which is maslahah as a punishment for people. He is not allowed to do that. But he did that exactly in the Quran for Bani Israel. Just for punishment. Meaning there's an authority above Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Something which of school called a maslahah. It's always a circle augmented to end annihilating each other in the deep philosophical discussion. Part of it is the book of Tawheed. And we prove that Muhammad is have the speciality that he allows every good things and prohibits every bad things. That's speciality for Muhammad in his Sharia. By grace of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Not by any overriding principle of Allah. Allah's command is absolutely free to command whatever he wants, unless it doesn't break the fundamental necessity of his being al-haq and being the just one. And free election because of his divine essence. That's it. But this is deep. I am admitting, but in it, if you look at it clearly, it will end with kufr. Those who declare him to be kafir are again mistaken. They do not take the issue that he may be confused, maybe following Ibn Taymiyyah. They don't even go to task with Ibn Taymiyyah about that, as it should be. But this is, I'm not opening the wounds in the past, but I think the issues are deeper than this guy thinks. And they have been discussed by many factions in Islam in the past, and we have summarized that and developed it further in our writing. My advice, not because we are the best writer in the world, for him and also Muhammad Hijab, and also for Deen Haqqir, read what we have written. It will get you one step further. I'm not saying we'll get you to the end, but the end maybe will not reach until Yawm al-Qiyamah.
I know I did give Hijab.
You cannot even host that Quran. No way. But you can get at least the fundamentals, which Allah will question you Yawm al-Qiyamah. Then you get that.
Okay. So now he's going to go into the Hijab. Makes a very good point about why is he discussing the issue now? Because there's more stuff to discuss. I want to go through some of the political statements, and then we can go to some of the doctrinal ones that he makes later.
Yeah.